Before we get into our message, I just had a little fun, actually it was a really sweet, cool moment with my son this last week. Before Reverb, I pray with him before he goes down to bed. And we walked on up to go do the whole nighttime routine, and the fan that's in his room, he ended up, I told him, don't touch the fan. You're not supposed to do it. And he didn't listen, and what he did is he popped off the little knob that turns it to various levels. So there's no knob, and so I'm explaining to him, Luke, you shouldn't have done that. And he's like, no pow-pow me. And I said, I'm not going to pow-pow you, but you're not going to get a fan until we find this. So he said, okay. And so it was time to read a book, brought it over, read, then it was time to pray. And we get down, we're talking about things that he can be praying for, and the first thing that I wanted him to be praying for was Reverb. And I said, what they're going to do is they're going to share a story, Noah, or Luke. They're going to share a story about a guy named Jesus. And I said, this guy, he came to this world for a reason. And I was like, what he did is each of us, we've done things. We haven't listened like we should have. We've all done things like touch that fan and kind of broken it. And really, we deserve a pow-pow from God. And not just a once pow-pow, but a forever pow-pow. And I said, here's the thing. Jesus, he loved us so much that he would come to this earth to take our pow-pow forever. And he was like, I want to hug her. So we worked on theology. It's not her. Jesus is him. But yes, we all need to really want to hug. But he lit up when he said it, so it was so cool. So the seeds are being planted with my youngest, or my second youngest. My oldest. It's been a long couple days. Woo! All right, let's drink. All right. As I was preparing for this one this week, we're in Who is God? Today, we're looking at God is all present. And as I was preparing and getting my head wrapped around this, I kind of did a look around and I said, all right, where have I visited? And I've been truly blessed in my young life. I have visited 22 states and 3 countries. And so, as I visited these places, each one of them, there's something that's kind of just, it sticks out to your mind. And as I went to places like Ohio, at least the place that I went to, it's incredibly flat farmland. And it's got this little boxy kind of shape to everything. When I went to Florida, one thing that I took away from that is you can expect rain at any moment, at any second of any day. You can expect rain. Chile. I remember flying over Chile and looking down at the Andes Mountains. One of the most breathtaking things I've ever seen. It looked like chocolate cake. It was just sprinkled with powdered sugar. It was really awesome. But the list, as you go on, and every place that I've been, and I know, Paul, you went to Grand Canyon. I can't even imagine how that just is incredible. But all these places, you see God and His creativity in each of these places. We get to look out. Not every place gets snow. Not every place is thankful for the snow they get. But it's awesome to see how beautiful it is, and it's pretty cool. But as I think about these places that I have gone and visited, the thing about them is it's one individual spot that I can go. I can go and visit any one of those states. I can visit any country in the world, but I can only be in that place physically with my body. I can't be, even though I'd like to sometimes in the same state, split myself and go to different places. It's just physically impossible. Wherever this body is where I end up being. It's not the case with God. I don't know if you've ever heard the visa. Visa's anywhere you want to go. Well, God's not even like Visa. God's everywhere you don't even want Him to go. God is everywhere, period, at all times. The theological word for God is all present, and that's what we're going to talk about today. It is a word omnipresent. Omni, all present, obviously present. It means to be in all places at all times. That's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at God is all present. But before we dive into it, let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you that you are everywhere. Lord, I thank you that there is nothing that we can do that will escape you. Lord, I thank you that, Lord, that is such a blessing to know that we're never alone. Lord, I know I have struggled in my own life feeling lonely, or feeling like I'm the only guy and nobody wants to be my friend. Lord, I struggle with that. And I thank you, Lord, that that's not the case. Or that you know me intimately well and you love me still the same. And I thank you for that. And God, I pray as we kind of scratch the surface of this attribute, that you would just give us wisdom, Lord. Help us to see how we can connect this to our life, Lord, and why this matters so much. And for it all, we will give you the praise and we praise in your name. Amen. God is all present. Earlier in this sermon series, when we were talking about God is all-knowing, so a couple of weeks ago, we looked at the first part of Psalm 139. And that was what we kind of looked at with God is all-knowing, and we kind of dropped in and out of Psalm 139. I'm going to reread verses 1 through 6, and that's going to be the backdrop leading in to what we're going to pick up today. Verse 7 is where we're going to start. But Psalm 139, 1 through 6. It says there, O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You understand my thought from afar. You scrutinize my path and my lying down. And you are intimately acquainted with all my ways. Even before there is a word on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it all. You have enclosed me from behind and before and laid your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is too high. I cannot attain it. Again, a couple of weeks ago, we looked at how God, He is all-knowing. How God, He has knowledge that is so far beyond our comprehension. We can't even begin to attain God's knowledge, to wrap our heads around it. And the fact that God knows us intimately well. Today, we're going to pick up. And I'm just going to start it off. We're going to read it all together, and then I'm going to break it up into chunks. So this is our main passage for today, Psalm 139, verses 7 through 16. This is what it says. Where can I go from your spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, behold, you are there. If I take the wings of the dawn, if I dwell in the remotest part of the sea, even there your hand will lead me, and your right hand will lay hold of me. If I say, surely the darkness will overwhelm me, and the light around me will be night. Even the darkness is not dark to you, and the night is as bright as the day. Darkness and light are alike to you. For you formed my inward parts. You wove me in my mother's womb. I will give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you. When I was made in secret and skillfully wrought in the depths of the earth, your eyes have seen my unformed substance. And in your book were all written the days that were ordained for me, when as yet there was not one of them. Now, this passage, it starts off and it opens up with a couple of questions. It's kind of the same question worded two different ways. It says, where can I go from your spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence? Now, this passage is going to go into deeper depths. It's going to talk about this and kind of unfold this idea for us. But before we get into it, I just want to kind of bottom line it for everybody. The bottom line of this question, the real ultimate answer, where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? The answer is simple. We can go nowhere that God is not already. We cannot escape the presence of God. God is all present at anytime, at all times. Now, we're going to look at some of these specifics that this passage kind of unwraps for us. The first one, if I ascend to heaven, you are there. Now, there's a couple of concepts of heaven that you see throughout the Bible, and there's a little bit of question as to specifically which one of these the writer is saying. A lot of people just assume it's the first one, that it refers to God's physical abode, that where heaven is, where God's kind of control center, headquarters, so to speak. A lot of people, most people probably lean towards that. But there are some that say it also refers to just sky or outer space where the stars are, atmosphere type ideas. But the point of all of this is if you go up as far as the stars, or even as far as where God, his abode is, and most of us kind of get the idea that heaven, that's where God's abode is. But regardless, wherever you go up, God is already there. God is present. We cannot escape God by going up. Just traveling up is not going to get us away. And you got to think about the context that this is being written in. I was processing this. Today we've got things where space shuttles go flying all over the place. Well, this time, just to kind of get off more than a couple of feet off the ground when you jump was about as high as they could go. They didn't have planes. So this idea of going up, that would kind of blow their mind when you see what we have. But we cannot escape the presence of God by going up. The next one that you see, if I make my bed in Sheol, behold, you are there. Now, Sheol is a very interesting word. It is the Old Testament designation for the abode of the dead. Now, Sheol, it is a transliteration of a Hebrew word. And what it really means is the grave, or the place of the dead is what it really means. And to be very clear, some people get this confused. Sheol is not the same thing as hell. They're two different concepts. But that does kind of raise a theological question. And I kind of wanted to scratch the surface of this. The theological question is this. If God is everywhere present, and we all agree to that, we get this in our head, does that mean that God is present? Does that mean that God's present in hell? And I want to kind of unwrap for just a second what hell is. Hell is a very real place. It was prepared for the devil and his angels. And it is a place that the Bible describes it is filled with torment. There's a lake of fire, and it's a burning sulfur. It's this fiery lake. It talks about this hell being a place of weeping and gnashing of teeth. It's a place of no rest. It's a place of loneliness and isolation. The Bible refers to it as outer darkness. So again, God is everywhere present. Does that mean God's presence is in hell? And the answer to this is a yes-no answer. It really depends on what you're defining presence as. Yes, the presence of God will be in hell. God, He will know everything that happens in hell. Because again, God is omnipresent. He is all present. That means every last single place ever conceived, ever devised, ever created. There is no place, including hell, that God is not. However, there is a difference. It's also kind of a no. Those in hell, they will not have a relationship with Jesus Christ. They will not have a relationship with God. You see this expounded upon and talked a little bit in 2 Thessalonians 1, 7b through 9. And it says over there, when the Lord Jesus will be revealed from heaven with his mighty angels in flaming fire, dealing out retribution to those who do not know God, and to those who do not obey the gospel of our Lord Jesus. These will pay the penalty of eternal destruction, away from the presence of the Lord, from the glory of his power. Again, the idea of presence. As I said, it really all hinges on what you define presence as. That word presence in this passage, it talks about, it's referring to the face, or from the front of a human face, is the idea that you see here. So those in hell, although they are in the presence, God's presence is there in the sense that God is everywhere, they will not have fellowship with God. The fellowship aspect, it has been separated because of sin. It has caused a wedge that we cannot fix, that we cannot cross this chasm that our sin created. That is again why Jesus Christ came to this earth. To bridge that gap, and it is by grace through faith that relationship, it is restored. And so that we can spend forever not only in the physical proximity, but in celebration of that relationship in the presence of the Almighty. I think about it, I try to process it in a concept that I can understand. It's similar to that of the cross. When you picture Jesus, he died on the cross, and all of the sin of the world was on him at that point. And you think about what happened, and the Bible talks about this, how God, he basically turned his back. God the Father turned his back. He could not look upon his Son. Was God's presence, as far as being there physically? Yeah, God, he's everywhere. But he could not be a part of that sin. It's the same concept with us. Because of sin, there is this wedge. To me, that drives home the loneliness aspect of hell. You think about it, you are in the physical presence. I don't know if you can see it or not in hell, but physically, there's going to be some knowledge that God is everywhere. But you won't be able to have that personal connection. Just that maybe a back to you. I don't know. But that just, to me, it just kind of signifies how lonely of a place a hell really is. It's not going to be a place of partying. It's not going to be a place where people just get together and hang out and do a bunch of corrupt stuff. That was not why it was created. It was created as punishment for the devil and his angels. And subsequently, a lot of people end up taking that same punishment. Point to all of this. You can go down. You can go down to the grave, or you can even go further and go down to hell. But God is present there. You cannot escape God by going down. It is impossible to escape God. The wings of the dawn. The next phrase that pops up, it says, if you take the wings of the dawn, if I dwell in the remotest part of the sea, even there your hand will lead me, and your right hand will lay hold of me. Now, the wings of the dawn, it's this beautiful imagery that you get. We'd say different stuff, but it's basically the idea of from darkness, how it kind of spreads its wings at the crack of dawn, where the light kind of just, poof, there it is. It goes from dark, utter darkness to, poof, now there's light. That kind of over the crust of the hill. So it's this picture in your mind that leads the morning light. It's these rays, these wings of light that pop up from the sun or light. And what it's doing is it's actually speaking about travel time. It's not so much a specific location, it's talking about the speed. If it takes something as fast as maybe the speed of light, today we would say something like that, to get to go to a certain place, even the remotest part of the sea. If you could take the furthest possible way away from land, where maybe no one else in the world is, and you just set your anchor down in that place, and that's where your boat is kind of floating, the remotest part of the sea, God is there. Doesn't matter how fast you get there, God's going to beat you to it. Doesn't matter where you go, God is going to be there. So again, no matter where you go or how fast you try to get there, you'll never escape the presence of God. God is all present. He is omnipresent. The next phrase, or the next little chunklet, it says, I say, surely the demons will overwhelm me, and the light around me, I say, surely the darkness will overwhelm me, and the light around me will be night. Even the darkness is not dark to you, and the night is as bright as the day. Darkness and light are alike to you. If you think about this, the idea that is being presented here, it's like this cloak. A darkness that could maybe conceal or hide. If you think about it, there is nothing. If you think that there is something that is going to conceal you, you are wrong. No amount of darkness, nothing can actually hide you from the presence of God. Growing up, I had this really naive thought that went through my head. I get scared at night. And I wasn't like boogeyman scared. I was scared of someone like breaking in and like doing something. And so I struggled with that in my head. And I really thought that if I cocooned myself and threw the blanket over my head, that there was nothing that was going to touch me. I was concealed. I was going to be safe in my blanket. Not the case. But you think about that. In the same way, there is nothing. If we have this darkness that could conceal us, if we think in some way, I'm going to be in this small room or wherever, there's nothing that will conceal us from God's presence. Remember, God is light. And the nature of light, what it does is it reveals. There is nothing that is able to be concealed from God's presence. Nothing is hidden from God's sight. The last little bit, as we kind of wrap it all together, it's all talking about kind of the same concept. For you formed my inward parts. You wove me in my mother's womb. I give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret, and skillfully wrought in the depths of the earth. Your eyes have seen my unformed substance, and in your book were all written the days that were ordained for me, when as yet there was not one of them. God, we talked about how He was the creator of all things, but God is the one who crafted everything about you personally. From the moment you were concealed, God, He crafted everything. Your eye color, your hair color, everything that makes you different from somebody else. God is the one that chromosomally puts you all together to make you that package. That special, unique, kind of like a snowflake package. God intimately wove you together. All of creation, as you look on out, it kind of talks, it draws us to the idea that there is something that created this. This could not just happen by chance. It draws us to that idea. And specifically, I think humans draw us to that. As we kind of see how unique and how special and delicate, whether it's the eye or the hand or the brain, all these things, how all of our layers of our systems are just perfectly interwoven. It talks about a creator who knew you intimately, who formed you and constructed you in such a way. It's incredible. All of us, deep down, we are hardwired to know that there is a creator. And being a creator, He knows everything about His creation. He knows our names. He knows the number of hairs on our head. And He knows how long we'll be on earth. He knows those number of days before we could even process it. Nothing catches God by surprise. So as I think about this, the fact that God knows all of these personal, intimate things, the fact that God is all present and He sees everything, that again is a mixed bag for us. On one hand, it is incredibly scary. It is scary to know that God sees everything. It's scary to know that God is always there. That there is nothing that you do that is going to be hidden. It's scary if there's something that you're trying to conceal. It's scary if there's untaken care of sin in your life. It's scary if there's no relationship with God. That's what makes it absolutely the most petrifying thing to think about. Being in the presence of an all-powerful God. A holy God that cannot look. on sin. That's a scary thought. But it's also a reassuring thought. You're never alone. At no point are you ever alone. I think about it in my own life. When I was a middle schooler, I sat at the lunch table. This is like the worst thing you could ever imagine in middle school. 2.5 years I ate lunch by myself, every single day in the cafeteria. Thank you, Wendy. I see her go, Pastor's really pathetic. He has no friends. I appreciate that. But it's true. I went there and it's like, okay, I bring my lunch in, and so I come and I sit at the same table, and no one would ever choose to sit with me. That is worse than being picked last at dodgeball. It's like, oh, all right, I see everyone else going to their own groups, and then occasionally I'd even work up courage, and I would be rejected at those tables. They're like, do you mind if I sit here? Actually, no, that seat and everything else is saved for anyone else but you. It's like, oh, all right. And so you go back to your own seat, you lick your wounds, and it's like, you're all alone. You feel that way. But the reality is, even in the most dark of times in middle school where everyone you feel is judging you, you are not alone. God is right there with you. I had an opportunity to have a wonderful conversation with Jesus every single lunch. Unfortunately, I didn't take hold of it like I should have. But no matter where you are, no matter who you are, and no matter what time of day or night, we have to realize God is present. He is all present. Which draws us to the conclusion today. So what? Why did we just talk about this? Those are great facts, John. Thanks for sharing them. I had a challenge. In fact, here's the challenge. Practice the presence of God. Now, there was a guy, he was a French monk, and his name was Brother Lawrence. And he wrote a book, actually basically entitled this, Practicing the Presence of God. And this book, it really helped to kind of either popularize or kind of put this concept into our minds and to start to develop it a little bit. The key to this whole concept that he presents in this book, and I think is echoed throughout Scripture, is to have a continual conversation with God. It's this idea of practically praying without ceasing. As you're going through your day, you might seem like you're talking to yourself, but you're talking to God. As you're going through an obstacle, you not just realize God's there with you, but you're talking to Him. When you're needing help and whatever it is, God is there. It's this idea of to be aware of God's presence. And we need to be able to develop this habit of talking with God throughout the day, this practicing the presence of God. And taking full advantage of the availability of His presence. I love this quote that Brother Lawrence he used in this book. The time of business does not differ with me from the time of prayer. And that kind of summarizes what he's talking about. We can get so busy, and I know I'm guilty of this. You get your New York state of mind. You get those horse blinders on, and you're there to do your task. And you're out to do it, and you miss the opportunity to keep this fellowship. It's not about, okay, now it's time to break. Oh, it's officially lunchtime. I need to pray to God. Oh, it's officially bedtime. I need to pray to God. But this idea of continually praying, having this constant conversation. If you're in need of help from God, take advantage of God's presence. If you're thankful to God, take advantage of God's presence. If you're about to make any kind of decision in your life, take advantage of God's presence. And before you get to the point where it's like, I'm a little bit nervous because it's like this to-do list. It's one more thing where I'm supposed to just, okay, pray, pray, pray. And you kind of feel like sometimes it's a religion. It's the system of dues, trying to work our way into a relationship with God. Before you're disillusioned in that, that's not what I'm talking about. It is a reciprocation of love. The more you understand who God is and what He has done on your behalf, it just draws you in awe to who God is in His presence, that He is everywhere, and what that truly means, and how we can take advantage of that as individuals and as a church. Pray, pray, pray. Pray without ceasing. Communicate to the God who is everywhere. I think that'd be pretty cool. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you for your presence. Lord, it is so much more than just a theological concept. Lord, that you love us and that you are here. You didn't leave us alone. Your presence reminds us of that. Lord, that we're not just created and distant from you, the Creator. Lord, I thank you that you love us. Lord, I thank you that you've given us an avenue that I think we so often underutilize. Lord, that we don't cast all our cares upon you. We try to do it on our own. Lord, that we don't lay all of our burdens down at your feet. Because again, we try to do it in our own strength. Lord, I pray that as individuals and as a church that we would be more and more reliant on you. That everything, Lord, that we would just have our eyes fixed on you, the author and the creator of all things, the sustainer of life. Lord, I thank you for Jesus. I thank you for who he is and what he's done. Lord, I thank you what that has afforded each and every one of us. Lord, guide us today. Continue to draw us in that walk with you. And for it all, we will give you the praise. Praise in your precious name.